Joseph, the beloved son of Jacob, was given dreams that revealed a future of greatness, but those same dreams stirred deep jealousy in the hearts of his brothers. Instead of celebrating him, they betrayed him. They stripped him of his special robe, threw him into a pit, and eventually sold him to traders on their way to Egypt. In a heartbreaking turn of events, Joseph, once a favored son, was taken far from home and sold as a slave in a foreign land, Egypt. Yet even in that moment of betrayal and uncertainty, God had not abandoned him. This painful beginning was setting the stage for a greater purpose. Bible reference: Book of Genesis 37 verses 23 to 28. Joseph, from dreams to the pit to destiny, Genesis 37 to 41. There are some stories in life that don't begin with greatness. They begin with confusion, betrayal, and pain. Joseph's story is one of them. He was the son of Jacob, a man who had known struggle, wrestling with God and men alike, but among all his sons, Joseph stood out, not because he tried to, but because favor rested on him. Jacob loved Joseph deeply. Maybe it was because he was born in Jacob's old age. Maybe it was because Joseph carried a certain spirit, something different, something noticeable. So Jacob gave him a gift, a robe. Not just any robe, but one of many colors. Rainbow, a symbol of love, a symbol of favor, a symbol that spoke loudly without words. And that was the problem. When favor becomes a target, Genesis 37 verses 3 to 4. Joseph didn't have to say anything. His life was already speaking. Every time his brothers saw that robe, they were reminded, he's not like us. What should have been a family bound by blood slowly turned into a battlefield of emotions. Jealousy, resentment, and silent hatred. The Bible says they could not speak peaceably to him. Not sometimes. Not occasionally. Never. Imagine living in a house where your own brothers couldn't say a kind word to you. That was Joseph's reality. The dreams that changed everything, Genesis 37 verses 5 to 11. Then came the dreams. Joseph saw something that would shape his entire destiny. In one dream, he and his brothers were binding sheaves in the field. Suddenly, his sheaf stood upright, and his brothers' sheaves gathered around and bowed down. In another dream, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowed before him. Joseph, being young and perhaps unaware of how sensitive his brothers already were, shared the dreams. And that's when things escalated. His brothers didn't just dislike him anymore. They hated him even more. To them, Joseph wasn't just favored. He was arrogant. "Will you really rule over us?" they asked. Even his father, Jacob, questioned him, but deep inside, Jacob remembered the dream. Because sometimes, what sounds unbelievable is actually divine. The assignment that led to betrayal, Genesis 37 verses 12 to 17. One day, Joseph's brothers went far away to graze their father's flock. Time passed and Jacob grew concerned. So he called Joseph. "Go and check on your brothers," he said. Simple instruction. Normal responsibility. But it would change everything. Joseph obeyed. No hesitation, no argument. He set out, not knowing he was walking straight into betrayal. Spotted from afar, Genesis 37 verses 18 to 20. Before Joseph even reached them, his brothers saw him coming. That robe made him easy to recognize. And distance gave them time to think, to plan, to let their anger boil over. "Here comes that dreamer," they said. Notice, they didn't even call him by name anymore. He had become a label, a target, a problem. "Let's kill him," they said. "Then we'll see what becomes of his dreams." Jealousy had now matured into something darker. The pit, Genesis 37 verses 21 to 24. But one brother, Reuben, stepped in. He couldn't stop the hatred, but he tried to reduce the damage. "Don't kill him," he said. "Throw him into this pit." His plan was to come back later and rescue Joseph. But Joseph didn't know that. All he experienced was betrayal. They stripped him of his robe, the very symbol of favor, and threw him into an empty pit. No water, no escape. Just silence, just darkness, just questions. Why are my own brothers doing this to me? Casual cruelty, Genesis 37 verse 25. And then something chilling. After throwing Joseph into the pit, they sat down to eat. Let that sink in. While Joseph was crying out from the pit, while he was confused and broken, they were eating like nothing happened. Sometimes the deepest pain isn't just what people do. It's how easily they move on afterward. Sold for silver, Genesis 37 verses 26 to 28. As they ate, they saw a caravan of traders heading toward Egypt. And in that moment, another idea was born. "Why kill him?" Judah said, "when we can make money from him?" So they pulled Joseph out of the pit. Not to save him, but to sell him. For 20 pieces of silver. Joseph, once a beloved son, was now a commodity, a transaction, a slave. Bible reference, Book of Genesis 37 verse 28. The lie that broke a father, Genesis 37 verses 31 to 35. To cover their actions, the brothers dipped Joseph's robe in animal blood and took it to their father. Jacob saw it and his world collapsed. "My son has been torn apart," he cried. He mourned deeply, refused comfort, because as far as he knew, Joseph was gone forever. A new life begins in chains, Genesis 37 verse 36. Meanwhile, Joseph was carried far away into Egypt, a land he didn't know, a culture he didn't understand, a future he couldn't see. He was sold again, this time to an Egyptian officer named Potiphar. And just like that, the dreamer became a servant. But God was still there, Genesis 39 verse 2. Here's the turning point. The Bible says, the Lord was with Joseph, not when he became powerful, not when things got easy, but right there, in slavery. That means, God didn't abandon him in the pit. God didn't leave him during betrayal. God didn't disappear when life got hard. And because of that, Joseph began to prosper even as a slave. Faithfulness in the hidden place, Genesis 39 verses 3 to 6. Joseph served faithfully in Potiphar's house. He didn't let bitterness control him. He didn't give up on life. He didn't say, "What's the point?" Instead, he worked with excellence, and God blessed everything he touched. Soon, Potiphar put Joseph in charge of everything, from the pit to responsibility, from rejection to trust. Another test, Genesis 39 verses 7 to 20. But success didn't mean the trials were over. Potiphar's wife tried to seduce Joseph, day after day, but Joseph refused, not because it was easy, but because he feared God. "I cannot do this great wickedness," he said. One day she falsely accused him, and just like that, Joseph lost everything again. This time he was thrown into prison. The prison season, Genesis 39 verses 21 to 23. But even in prison, God was still with Joseph. He found favor again. He was given responsibility again, because what God placed in him, no situation could take away. The rise begins, Genesis 41. Years later, through a series of events involving dreams and interpretation, Joseph was brought before Pharaoh. Pharaoh had troubling dreams, no one could explain them, but Joseph could, not by his own power, but by God. He interpreted the dreams and gave wisdom, and in one moment, Joseph went from prisoner to ruler. Pharaoh made him second in command over all Egypt. The message: Joseph's life proves something powerful. Your pit is not your end, your betrayal is not your burial, your delay is not your denial. What people meant for harm, God can turn into purpose. Now it's your turn. Have you ever felt like life pushed you into a pit, a place of pain, rejection, or confusion, and you didn't understand why? Be real, drop your answer in the comments section. Your story might be the encouragement someone else needs today. And if this message stirred something in you, share it. Someone out there is still in their pit waiting for hope.